That's why I put my weed in the freezer. Right? Heat and light and dryness will ruin your terpenes. Okay, so wow, there's so many of you. It's good to see you. How are you? Good to see you. Good afternoon. You're a legend. All right, to lead this panel, the one and only legendary from Grasslands. Let's hear it for Ricardo Baca, everybody.
What's up, everybody? Welcome. If you're here, you want to talk international branding strategies, one of my favorite subjects, and we have some incredible experts here from all over the world. Looking forward to jumping in. And we're going to start with some self-introductions, so it's not me just reading their bios. Harrison, why don't you get us started, bro?
Test, we're good. Harrison Rady, Vice President of Sales for MJ BizCon. I'm out here supporting our fantastic partnership with ICBC and many of you folks in the room. I come from a long history of events and cultural events. In the past about 15 years. I've been 3 years here with MJ BizCon and just looking for the good times and to help support the industry.
The good times. I think we're having some good times out here.
We are.
Right on. Cameron.
Cameron Clark. I'm the owner of the Kana brand of edibles. The company's called Thunderstorm. We started in California back in the days of gray days in 2015. We're now one of the largest edible brands in the U.S., operating out of 4 states. 3 years ago, we opened up in Thailand, so we're very excited about that opportunity, and that has actually given us access to the European market and the Australian markets, and now we're actually exporting flower out of Thailand, so we're super excited about that. Interestingly enough, I embarked on that not because I necessarily wanted to get in the flower market, but because I wanted to establish the channels of trade into various global markets, and the global markets are about flower, so that allowed us to do that. So we continue to grow in the United States. We recently bought a pre-roll company in California, and we're doing vapes in multiple states as well, so we got our hands full.
Yeah, congrats on that recent expansion. That's a blast. Big fan of the Kana products. If you come across them, definitely give them a try. Mel, please.
So my name's Mel. You'll probably see Margaret above me, so you're probably wondering who I am. Margaret is our CEO, but we switched at the last moment. So I'm Mel. I'm the COO of Rubicon Organics. We are a Canadian premium cannabis company. We grow probably between 11 and 16 tons a year, so in Canadian terms, that's pretty small. And we grow organically and also indoor, and we have the #1 premium brand in Canada, which is 1964, and we also have Simply Bare and Homestead and Wildflower. We predominantly cater to the domestic market in Canada at the moment, and we are now just starting to look at international markets. We're actually launching our 1964 brand in the UK tomorrow. On my way there now, and then we're just here networking, meeting other partners to see what other opportunities there are.
Good luck with the launch tomorrow. That's very cool. Douglas.
Yes. Hi, Douglas Mignola from TH Seeds Amsterdam. I'm originally from California, but we got our start in Amsterdam by opening up the High Times Cannabis Cup to the general public, and we supplied Brownie Mary with the Sage genetics, which were the original medical cannabis. So we've been around for a long time for both medical and recreational. And now we have moved more into the medical market, and we're supplying genetics to North Macedonia, Greece, Portugal, and Switzerland.
Nice, excellent. And last but not least, Min, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Min from Iridescent Med, Thailand. And we grow 4 tons a year, and by the next year, I think we should be like 12 tons a year. And I know that some of the perception of the Thai flower is not so good internationally, but we're different. We're very high quality and pharmaceutical grades. Yeah, and yes, from Thailand.
Outstanding. And yeah, I was in Thailand in November of last year. Very much dispels the myth that there is not good Thai flower. Some really strong operators out there, most of whom that I met are very much embracing these new regs, going into a more strict medical economy. So thank you, panelists. A little bit about my background. I was the cannabis editor at the Denver Post during the implementation of the world's first regulated market. So I was a journalist for 24 years, did that thing really proud of the way we covered legal cannabis in Colorado for the first time. Since then, I launched Grasslands, which is a leading PR and marketing firm. We operate globally. We've been international for the last year and a half, and it's such a thrill to see so many partners, so many friends and clients out here. So welcome, and let's have a good conversation. So some thoughts, because one thing I learned last year going from Czech Republic to Thailand to UK is, these cannabis brands aren't just going global because their ambitions do. It's really about learning how to translate that trust and finding that locality and really having it come to a place where it just makes sense for a local community. My first trip into Asia and Asia's cannabis market, it was deeply educational, deeply fascinating, and you just have to understand it to really be able to operate in it. So this is one of the things we're going to talk about today. But why don't we start by talking about branding from a big picture point of view? Men, why don't you get us started? Because branding goes beyond packaging and design, right, men? But tell us how you approach branding and how you view this.
Well, yes. Besides from the making a beautiful packaging, it also has to come with a very high quality flower as well. So it's undeniable that if the packaging look good, it's a chance for customer to try on. But to keep them from the normal customer up to the royal customer, you really need a high quality of the flower in order to shift from the normal one to the royal one. Yeah, so to me, the success for it has to be the combination between a good-looking packaging plus together with the consistency. If customer likes it and want it to buy, it will always be there for them to buy. Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, extends into the product. Please, Mel.
Yeah, I think this is what's really helped us as well in Canada. Up until a few months ago, you weren't allowed to have any windows on your packaging, so everything is closed. So a consumer goes into a store, they can't even touch the packaging, it's behind the shelf. So you're asking a consumer to drop potentially $50 on a pack. They've got no idea what's inside it. They can't look at the flower. So exactly like you said, Min, the consistency of that, they'll buy you once. If you let them down once, it's very rare that they're going to come back again. So consistency in a high quality flower is really how we've made our name as well, because people they try us, and they realize that they're going to get the same equivalent experience every time, and that's really important when you build a brand.
I'd like to add to that. So for me, I have a very specific definition of what a brand is. For me, the brand starts with the first premise that you have to build trust with your consumer. A brand is primarily trust between a manufacturer and a consumer, and it takes years to build that trust, and you can lose that trust in a matter of days. So you've got to make sure that you stay on top of your game and continue to build that trust constantly over time, because you can lose it in a heartbeat. The second thing is that you build on top of that trust is an emotional connection with the consumer. That's super important. You have to win the hearts and souls of the consumers. So packaging is great, super important. You got to have great products, but you have to educate your consumers. You got to give them a reason to believe. You got to give them they got to understand why they want to take their precious time and energy and follow your brand and connect with your brand. So you got to constantly engage with them and make sure that they're having experiences that will constantly remind them of why you're important to them.
Reason to believe, 3 powerful words. If you're not familiar with that marketing strategy, highly recommend you look it up. Thank you for that, Cam. And I think that leads into the next question. Looking at this from a big picture, when you're building a cannabis brand internationally, what absolutely must stay consistent across borders versus what has to be localized market by market? Cam, maybe you want to get us started, because I know packaging is not necessarily an operator's best friend, whether you're operating across multiple states in the US or globally.
Yeah, we definitely find that there are differences in the markets, but to answer the first part of the question, the most important thing for me is you got to have consistent products. So for us, we tell people, our products are exactly the same whether you buy them in Boston or Bangkok, and that's because we manufacture them ourselves. We don't do licensing deals. So that for us is a very important part of it, is a consistency. The other thing is that, yes, there are regulatory differences in all markets. Every state is different. We have found that we've had to change our logo in certain states in certain times, and we have to manage through that. But what we found is that as long as you have the visibility, as long as the consumer knows that they can find your brand and they can recognize the brand somehow, even if it looks a little bit different, they will still connect with you if you use other methodologies to connect with them. They also have a lot of new digital tools that are available to them in today's world, where they can stay connected to the brand and they can find you. So they will put that work. They will put that work together. They will do that as long as you connect them in a proper way. So for us, again, you just got to be in the game with your consumers on a regular basis to engage them. And you can manage through the challenges of different looking packaging and the variabilities in the different markets, as long as they know who you are and how to connect with you.
Mel, you all operate across many markets. What has to stay the same?
I think just a bit of background from me. My background was we built brands. I came from Diageo, which is a big alcohol company that a lot of people know, with Johnny Walker and Guinness, and they teach you very much about the key brand assets is something you should never change. So if you think of Johnny Walker, it's the striding man. If you think of Guinness, the black and white. There's always certain things that you will recognize the brand without language. And I think those things are really critical and should never change. There's always going to be changes similar to, you say, like if I go into a medical market, maybe 10 gram and they're used to buying a 3.5, or they want to buy an ounce in Canada, there'll always be that. But as long as I keep my brand personality and my key brand assets the same. So for 1964, it's obviously a logo. It doesn't matter if you've not got the language. It says 1964 in every language that you know. It's black and white. We have a few core brand assets. As long as we consistently refer to those, you're building memory patterns for your consumer or your patient that, exactly like you say, they recognize it on shelf. And then you've already built a lot of those trust cues ahead of time so that they're ready to come back into the brand. So just keeping those key brand assets is really important.
Essential, which is why I'm wearing a pen with a G right now. Hopefully that means something to some of you. But Harrison, you're a VP with the largest B2B cannabis trade show in the world. It's different when you're over here, because you might be chatting with somebody in the crowd after this and they might ask you, oh, what is MJ BizCon, because it's a totally different demographic. Can you tell us about your experience here and how you build that brand abroad as you're traveling?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we are the largest B2B trade show. Anything from seed to sale happens in Las Vegas in December. The biggest difference, obviously, here is everything's focused more on the medical aspects, and the companies here have a lot of that research done. One thing I always try and let them know to have a successful show in the United States is bring that energy and bring those resources to the show with the education branded marketing. So whether it's scientific credibility or patient outreach and education, use that content when you come overseas. The big missing piece obviously is the culture. So coming to North America, it is based around culture. We've seen some huge success for companies that embrace that. But the companies that do come over and do the most successful are the ones that do it from start to finish. So that's pre-show marketing, as Cameron touched on it. There's vehicles to get the messaging out there, but that's also about your experience being at our event. So pre-show, on-site, and doing what you can, high communication with our resources and access to that, and then, of course, post-show. It's always the rule in the book of any conference or event. You can't come and cross your fingers. You need to be doing the pre-show build, the on-site build, and then following up after. And those are the successful companies that come over.
Damn straight. And Douglas, you're an American living in Europe. Give us your perspective on, as you're talking about TH Seeds and your other brands, does that differ where you are, depending on where you are?
So exactly what everyone's talking about, especially with flowers, which is all that we do, basically. It all comes down to the quality. So what you'll see is other companies will just slap a name on there, and they consider the customers. They're not knowing their customer. They think that they can fool them. And our approach is to do it more like wine. So, the wine, how's the barrel? How's the curing? What's the process? Not a commodity, but a fine wine.
One brief story from Paris 2 months ago during Cannabis Europa. There's a big movement in California right now pushing terroir, the land in which the cannabis is being grown. That means something, right? Learning from wine. And in France right now, they cannot utilize terroir in these early days as they're transitioning from the pilot program into the regulated market. But it is all about that locality. I was very surprised to learn that. But as we help brands navigate this expansion process, it really starts with the brand and the products. And then it moves over to the audience very quickly because, as the panelists have said, you have to be audience-first thinking. So let's start here because this is something that many people, including folks in this room, are navigating right now. A question for the panel: how do you approach building your brand, not just as a cannabis company, but then as a pharmaceutical-grade medical cannabis company, or even taking biopharmaceutical into consideration as new markets open up, like in France?
I could take a stab at it. I have kind of a different opinion on this. There are medical markets, there are recreational markets, but I got to tell you that I see them integrated. Because we have plenty of customers who will take some of our products or other products and they'll use it for pain or anxiety. And then they'll go out with their friends at night and go to a concert and smoke a joint together and have a great time. So there are different, you could have the same consumer that actually falls into both camps, right? So for me, being able to address consumers in both the medical and the recreational markets simultaneously is really important. So and I fully believe that you could actually brand in the medical market, 100% you can. Interestingly enough for us, our number one products across all markets, except for Thailand, where people don't want to sleep, is that our sleep products are number one, hands down, by leaps and bounds, right? For me, those are medical consumers, right? That's a wellness product. And the loyalty of those consumers is incredible, by far greater than any other products that we have. We have a lot of POS data, transaction data. I know our demographics inside out and backwards. I know how often they buy our stuff. And that to me tells me that the consumers are loyal to the brands and the products for medical products once they connect with them and once it works for them. So I think you can build brand across all different types of markets and applications, and I think it's super important to keep that mindset that you stay consistent with that.
I could add to that. Because we were originally mostly in recreational, and now that we've moved to medical, what we found is that some of our legacy strains like Le Sage and French Cookies, which in the recreational market, they'll have their peaks and then kind of go down. I always say it's a little bit like a song, like some songs last forever, some are one-hit wonders. And with the medical, some of those songs, they're super loyal. So I don't know if it's an older crowd a little bit. He's right that they're kind of merged together. But like with the recreational, I know from the coffee shop scene in Amsterdam, it's changing every month, Whereas with the medical, they tend to, once they found something they like, they stick with it and it stays selling well for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's been in my experience, especially in North America. Dennis Perrone, who famously helped legalize medical in California, said all cannabis use is medical. And in North America, yeah, serious snaps to that guy for sure, and RIP. But I guess North America is quite different, though, because now we're having conversations in France 2 months ago. This is a biopharmaceutical market, and they are serious players. And their recreational positioning isn't aligning with their thoughts there. Men, I'm curious if you have any experience there, or Mel?
Yeah, coming from Thailand, where back then when they legalized, the recreational is everywhere. You can smoke on the street. It's like everywhere. It's more than 3,000 dispensary ups in a year. It's going crazy like that. You can sell the cannabis at 25 euro a gram in Thailand. It's like the price is that high. We don't really have those who's like in medical in Thailand is like in the emerging market. It's all recreational. But right now that the regulation changed, I think it's very important for us to catch up the pharmaceutical in order to be able to go international. Because once it's Thailand alone is very small, we need international, and with the highest standard that we have, the scale that we have, the craftsmanship at scale that we have, I think the international standards with the pharmaceuticals make us to go up beyond. Yeah.
Mel, do you and your colleagues find that there are higher standards in the EU for flower and other product finished goods than your home, not your home, but Rubicon's home?
Okay. There are in terms of certain testing standards, so certain microbes, etc., when you're exporting, but I agree, you know, the patient, the consumer, the end experience that they want is the same when, you know, wherever you're consuming, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in Amsterdam or Thailand, I think everybody's looking for the same. But I think the one thing we're sort of experiencing now in Canada is there's been a recent change where veterans are not getting as much of their prescription covered as they were previously. So the government has reduced the funding there. So we're going to see a lot of these medical patients coming more into the recreational market as they have to choose other products that are more affordable for them than were previously. So I think from a consumer or patient standpoint, they're often just looking for a consistent, reliable product that suits their needs, and how that shows up is just really through the delivery and the product quality every time.
I want to add a little bit to that. One thing that we've been kind of driving hard for a few years, and we see is actually having a domino effect, and others are jumping on the bandwagon, is functional products. Consumers, in the end, they want a specific experience, right? So they are looking for functional products, and I think that's an area both in medical and recreational that's going to continue to grow, and I think it's going to be super important.
Yes, definitely a buzzword, the functional products of it all. Harrison, I want to pick your brain a little bit, because here we are at a trade show. You're kind of a trade show guy. You're a trade show expert. So what's your professional take on how brands are presenting themselves on this side of the pond? But also, can you maybe give us one example of a non-North American brand that came out big at BizCon last year in a way that really impressed you, showing like cultural fluency as they enter into the North American market? So I guess start maybe by what are your thoughts about what you're seeing here as we talk about international brands, and we're here at ICBC, the biggest one ever.
Yeah, I think this market being a little less mature and more new, focused around medical, you can see that adult use is coming, and you can see the transition and the importance of that branding here. And I see that with the successful companies that do come over to MJ BizCon. One off the top of my mind, we had a company called Hephaestus come over this last season, and they made a huge splash. They did kind of what I was talking about earlier, where they embraced. They were actually they used us as almost like a consultative agency of how do we get in front of the market, how do we get into that culture. They had some great guidance obviously before, and had some great branding surrounding that, but they did follow those steps from the hype before they got there, and the awareness even before anyone stepped into the event was there, and it was the right way, and it was consistent, and it was all about the culture and the branding.
Yeah, it was super hands-on, if I remember correct.
Absolutely.
And many of you know Hephaestus. They make machinery that makes pre-rolls. And I'll always remember they were actually having the machine roll joints on the floor.
On the floor,
maybe not with real cannabis.
And they did activation side events. So like we hosted events after the show closed, and they took the experience off the show floor to our audience, and were rolling joints out of the machine, and you were able to consume them right there, which was a new experience for us.
Any other takes from the panel? I know my colleagues and I are out here capturing hot takes. So any other takes that from what you're seeing here at ICBC as we see more and more international cannabis brands emerge? No pressure if not. Right on. Well, let's jump back to you, Mel. Of course, Rubicon has built a reputation around premium positioning. You mentioned that. So when you're entering a new market, like tomorrow, is that a new market for y'all? So UK, so very timely, okay. When you're entering a new market, what are those first brand signals that tell consumers, but also B2B partners, that this is a company worth paying attention to? I'm guessing this is top of mind for you right now.
Yeah, it is. I think whenever we enter a new market, when we were either building the brands in Canada or now going into the UK, we always spend a little bit time to go slow before we go fast. So we learn a lot about the market. We often do a psychographic segmentation. So we'll go in, we'll speak to the different consumers or patients to better understand the insight that the brand is going to require in order to talk to them. So we're speaking in the right language, the right messaging. So that's the first and foremost. As previously mentioned, we make sure that any reputation or equity that we've built behind the brand in Canada is haloed by launching into the UK with the same brand assets and the same sort of consistent messaging. And then we're just aware that at every single touch point, we have to show up as premium. So when we speak to our customers, when we speak to our suppliers, how we deal with our suppliers, everybody has to be treated in a very premium way so that they feel that they're going to have that sort of premium experience. And we often find, even now in Canada with our provincial partners, because we consistently do that, we're the partner that they then call because they know that they're going to get that level of service from us. So be it a customer, a supplier, a consumer, or a patient, everybody needs to be serviced in a premium fashion.
Cam, Men, anything else to add? Or Douglas, all of you are bringing new brands to new markets on a regular basis. So.
For me, it's kind of interesting, right? Because we've been around for over 10 years now. We have millions of consumers, and one thing that I've found is that these consumers are taking our products everywhere. So I'll end up in some new country or some new state somewhere, and we're well known. So I think that experience of actually having the products out in the world has been really, really valuable for us. And one of the things that I like to do is actually set up in markets that have a lot of visitors or a lot of tourists, right? It's one of the reasons that I wanted to do Thailand, for example, because there's 25,
nice
30 million. It's a beautiful country. It's a lot of fun, right? But it's also got 25 to 30 million tourists, right? So it's the other reason we also set up in Nevada, even though Nevada is a very, very fierce market, but Las Vegas has been unbelievably valuable for us as a market to get our brand kind of out in the world with people coming in from everywhere. So that's been super important for us. The other thing I want to mention is that is the concept of brand equity. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on this because there are so many discussions here and everywhere I go about price compression and race to the bottom and all of that. And to be honest, in the last 3 years, I'll just talk about the California market because it's so fierce. But in the California market in the last 3 years, our average price across all of our products on a wholesale basis has gone up by over 10 to 12%, something like that. And our gross margin has increased as well by probably 5 points. And that's because we've worked really hard on the brand equity piece, and we don't participate in the race to the bottom. And as we're saying, right, you got to have the premium products, because consumers will pay for the premium products. They will pay for the experience. And in the 3 top brands in California in the edible category, for example, we own 65% of the entire edible category in California. And we're also all the most expensive. So I realize that edibles are different than flower, but you know what? Consumers will pay if you do the proper branding and build that brand equity, but it ain't easy.
Props, and that is amazing and remarkable for California. Douglas and Men, please.
Yes, so I can take you all way back because we started in the business back in the early 90s. I like to call that the golden age. So that was when it was, because at the very beginning, you could lose your house you know. And so it was amazing when it became legal in California and Colorado and everywhere. And so it was a really nice vibe. And you had, like, say, Sensi Seed was an early brand, ours was an early brand, Greenhouse for the coffee shops. And so it was going really good, and then we kind of went into the dark age. And that was when, actually, when corporate cannabis first came in, you're like, wait a minute, all this money should make it good, right? But I was watching the big players in that, and they could only talk about getting the price per gram down. And they were not speaking to the customer. And a lot of times they were just slapping a name on it and thinking that the consumer was stupid. And so we've luckily gotten out of that era, and now we're into kind of a renaissance, the diamond era. And so the customers are not stupid, and we appreciate our customers. And what I hear from everyone here, that's the most important thing, is we focus on the customers, and we have a nice era now, you know, where it's like we're making premium products, and like you said, that always wins. And so it's not a race to the bottom, and we don't have to complain. It's the same with our strains. They stay premium priced.
Yeah, I also agree with them as well. I think bringing the brand to the luxury and reliability brand, it always helps in order to, not for the consumer to push the price down. I think they're willing to pay for the quality of the product, and also they have to be very proud in holding your brand. You have to make the brand up to the standards that they're not hiding your brand at the pocket. They just want to put it here and then, hey, I'm using the iridescent mint. Like something like that. You have to bring that energy up. And then I think the pricing would not be down like that. It will maintain at the quality that you're able to sell. Yeah.
I always tell people, you know, consumers will. There are plenty of consumers who will shop on the low end. They're budget consumers. They'll always be there. But when they bring their friends around and they want to share something, they pull out the good stuff. So,
I love it. You know, Douglas, I want to kind of get into your world because you occupy a different space than a lot of the people on the panel. You've worked across genetics, cultivation, hemp. How important is origin story and international branding based on your experience? You know, when does heritage become an advantage versus a limitation? I mean, you just started talking about working in this industry in the 90s, which not many of us in this room can say.
Yeah, like it's kind of like I said, well, you have to do good. That's the key. Like the customer's not stupid. And if you treat it, like I said, like wine, you know, and I was listening to a panel yesterday, I think, and they were talking about how you just always had to have supply. And that's actually wrong. What I find is when it's sold out, people want it more. And that is like really like, I mean, I don't know, because like with edibles, you really probably have to always have supply. With flowers, like I said, it's more like wine. If you sell out, the demand is even higher the next crop.
Drop culture, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's funny because some strains, timing is also important. So for example, our bubble gum, which we released like in the early 90s, is still popular. And then other strains, like I remember we won the Cannabis with Underdog, and it was the best Kush. And then that was the beginning of the dessert area. So we didn't sell so much of that one. And then it's funny how it goes. You just had, like I said, it's like a song. Sometimes they last forever, sometimes they go away. But the most important thing is that the quality is good. And if you can keep the consistency with flour, that's it. It's all about that. And then the people know the name, and then they trust it.
Props. All right. One last question for the whole panel. Would love to hear from all of you on this. You know, looking out 5 years from now, what will define the cannabis brands that truly win on a worldwide scale, whether we're talking about consumer brands or B2B? What will define those brands that really win? Is it going to be scale? Is it going to be trust? Cultural fluency, we've talked a lot about. Of course, product quality keeps coming up, and so I think clearly that's a through line that we're experiencing. Or will it be something else? So what's your hot takes here, friends?
Well, I think in the long run, to win in the long run, in the future that I see, I think people will not selling the product. They're selling the feeling of quality, the feeling of the reliability, the feeling that they trust the brand. I think that's what we sell. It's not really a product. It's not the gummies, it's not the flower. I think they sell the feeling of that brand, that it's at the standards. Yeah.
Well, Min, what you touch on is so essential. I mean, we're here talking about branding. Of course, we're talking about marketing. Marketing is all about emotion. How does it make you feel? That's all it comes down to. Bravo, I completely agree. Who else?
But that has to be based on, that does have to be based on great products, right? Like the consumer, it's the whole enchilada, right? It's having a great experience. It's doing what you say, and if you make mistakes, which all of us do because this industry is crazy and impossible, you got to own up to your mistakes and you got to apologize to your consumers. You just got to engage with them in a trustworthy way and continue to make great, consistent, innovative products, and they will come to you.
Well, innovative, note that word too, because I think that's one thing we've witnessed throughout North America. Innovation really drives notability, credibility. It drives something different. So yeah, thank you.
I could add something to that. I think that it's about know your customer. And sometimes the older guys will complain about the dessert strains. But the way I look at it is, I'm a sativa lover, but the dessert strains sell well also. So if this is the new strain, we are going to develop new strains in that category. And you got to keep up with it.
And I might even add, Douglas, know your customers, right? Your end consumer, but also your B2B customers play a very important role.
Yes, of course. You have to have good relations.
Cannabis consumers are very fickle. For some reason, you guys all want something new all the time.
Yep, the new.
Not me. I want pre-98 Bubba every day. And some train wreck. And maybe some Acapulco Gold.
Oh, damn, old school and guys.
OG,
Damn.
yeah. I'm almost 60, you guys. We're running out of time. Do you want to?
We got two more people I want to hear
Okay.
from. Mel and Harrison, please.
I'll really just echo what everyone else has said. I think in 5 years, it depends where you are in the maturity of your market. Canada, we're still quite young. You know, we only legalized sort of how many years ago now? 7 years ago, 8 years ago? Lost track. And so right now we're doing a lot of building physical availability. Can you find the product in store? As you mentioned earlier, you know, that emotional connection, building then mental availability is next. So in 5 years' time, people will be connecting more with the brand's essence and its personality, but that will have been built on the functional delivery of the product underneath. But then they will be proud, they'll badge, they'll want the product on the table because it's something that they're proud of, and that's going to be the next step, building that emotional connection. But in the US, they're far further ahead than us. You know, that has been happening for a lot of years, so I think it depends by market.
And we have some branding freedoms that y'all lack in Canada as well. Harrison, why don't you close us up? 5 years from now, what makes you
they have
stand?
all the wise information for branding here, but I also want to echo, I think it's knowing your customer, staying true, and innovation, and keeping relevant in the market, weathering the storms as well, as we've seen. Those are the people staying up top.
Staying relevant. Thank you all. So appreciate it. Let's hear it for this great panel.
That was
Thank you,
fantastic.
Ngaio. Have a wonderful last day of ICBC, everybody. Let's rock it.